Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about cloud computing at the Department of Defense and Department of Homeland Security. We were just talking about priorities and a lot of them out there, and we wanted to focus on just a couple. Nicholas, can you give us a couple of examples, a couple of priorities that your customer base is giving to you that they want you to focus your attention on to deliver these capabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Luke. We're building a lot of applications on Snowflake, and a lot of our customers have asked us to help them build applications on Snowflake. We've got a really great partner in Active Cyber that has built an identity and access management system that uses Okta as a front end to detect logins, multi-factor authentications, those kinds of things, and then take all of those logs and put that into Snowflake for an artificial intelligence machine learning workload to notify them of certain different patterns in logins that might be extraneous or to support the no trust, zero trust environments. And then that then triggers actions in ServiceNow to create tickets to lock out an account or to change or force a multi-factor authentication event. So the first thing we're really trying to do is build some solid applications on top of Snowflake. We're one of the few technologies that can really scale to keep up with technologies like Okta and like ServiceNow, who really have had a head start in the industry, just building out that massive cloud computing infrastructure. The second thing that I really want to focus on and that a lot of our customers are doing is bringing all of the data engineering and data science into the same place. One of the advantages that we have is being able to do a lot of those things and build out extremely complicated data pipelines using just ANSI SQL, a simple programming language that anybody can learn in a couple of afternoons. And a lot of DBAs already know this stuff. And data scientists spend over 80% of their time, and I know most statistics are made up on the spot, but over 80% of their time refining data and getting it ready for data science and machine learning workflows. Snowflake aims to take that down quite a large step by building that refined pipeline into the product using SQL and streams and tasks very efficiently and effectively.
Well, once again, we want to take these barriers off the table so a data science scientist can do data science work. Love this next question we're going to bring up, and that is lessons learned. Frank, I'm gonna start with you. You all have been at this journey. You were an early adopter, and what would be a lesson learned out there? Give us one that you would want to share with the audience in regards to just stuff to think about as they go on this journey.
The application owners have to be involved. I think that's one of the processes. I mean, before we used to give it to vendors and vendors would just do it and they deliver something and we'd say, hey, that's not right. So I think that we learned that the application owners have to be involved as well as the security people at the same time. I think that's essential for getting an application out, especially if you're doing DevSecOps. So yeah, you have to do that. And of course, you have to look at how the application owner can actually fund this and sustain it. That's the other thing, because as we develop, no-low codes and everything else, as well as RPA work, the issue becomes, okay, I got it, but how am I going to sustain it? So you got to look at it from the viewpoint of how you build it and then how you sustain it. And I think those are the two main areas besides involving everybody involved in the process.
Absolutely. Security's got to be there day one. Customer must be involved day one. Travis, how about at Navy? Sort of top lesson learned that you'd like to share?
I think the big thing for us was don't try and solve it all. I think there's a connotation about folks doing things in a centralized fashion that creates this idea that we're trying to solve it all. I think the big thing that we've done and learned over the past couple of years is to embrace the centers of excellence and the communities of interest that have led the way in certain things. So it's not just a centralized effort, but really exposing and giving the opportunity for folks that have been doing things like AI and ML in the air community for a while, or in the NavC doing machine learning on their logistics and how they do shipboard maintenance. It's really about or creating that culture that you could start to bring forward folks that have done this in the past and turning that into an enterprise service or an enterprise delivery that people can benefit from the excellence of their work. I would say also the second part is we've touched on it a lot lightly, but it's not just a technology. We need the entire community. So we need the acquisition community, we need the legal community, we need everybody to come up for how IT is being delivered today. And it's really in that workforce development, we can't solely focus on the engineers and developers. We have to think about the fact of the program managers who are budgeting, how legal's looking at contracts and how we deal with folks. So it really is a cultural alignment across the entire company spectrum by just focusing on a technology aspect and delivery.
Ecosystem really does need to come together. Ed, top lesson learned, your observation as you're on this journey.
Well, I think the key thing for all of us is that we need to take an agile approach to everything via a holistic manner. When we look at things like was mentioned earlier, looking at hybrid cloud or governance or security, to include the procurement, the training, reskilling, upskilling. I mean, you really have to know where you want to go, what you want to be, to build, that road there, that roadmap. If you don't do that, you can wind up anywhere. You got to know where you want to end up. And I think that allows you to build it out in an agile fashion and really deliver value to your customer.
Yeah, I mean, this capability gives you a lot of options. That's the good news. And the challenge is it gives you a lot of options, and you got to get laser focused, really have a North Star. All right, we're going to wrap it up with this last question. And this one's about sort of painting a picture of the future, if you will. So we'd like each of you to take just a minute or two and tell us, what's it look like in a couple of years? So we'll start with you, Andrew, at Okta. What's it look like? What are you guys cooking up there? What are your customers telling you that they need you to do? And what do you envision over the course of the next couple of years?
I think the biggest vision here is, and I do believe is consistent with both cross value to commercial enterprises, but definitely within federal customers, is fundamentally the seamless user experience, right? And certainly in the commercial space, it's a little bit different because they have different missions, but it really comes down to speed, right? And there's two elements to that. One, as you have the seamless user experience to get to applications quickly, that certainly achieves the mission. But as you can do that and you have the tools, and there's great stories and pieces of information about how people are able to use these tools. But as you're able to use the tools for identity access and other things to speed that user experience and get people into and out of applications, to accelerate the authentication authorization process, that really will both get users on board, increase the adoption to the cloud, as well as keep them secure in the cloud.
Speed to market, very important. Adam, how about at ServiceNow? What does it look like in a couple of years? You guys have done infrastructure capabilities, HR capabilities. What's next for ServiceNow?
I love this question because if it's one thing my mom taught me, is when you're predicting the future of IT, just watch a couple episodes of Star Trek and you'll find your answer.
There you go.
We've got the communicators, we've got stun guns, we've got everything needed. We're just waiting for holodecks and warp drives, I think, at this point. No, but seriously, I'm doubling down on AI and ML. People need to remember that with those applications or with that capability, you can't just drop in AI and ML and expect to see any gains. AI and ML only work because you have massive amounts of data that allow machines to find patterns in that data and create models around that data. So that started. So, I think something in the realm of like 2 trillion gigabytes of data is created every day in 2020. I've heard, 40 zettabytes will be created. I had to research that. That's 40 with 20 zeros after it. And so the access to data continues to grow. And as we continue to have and harness that data, you're going to start seeing a lot of benefits with AI and ML. And how will that be manifested? Well, it's going to be within, for the DoD, it's going to be smart bases. We're doing a lot of, DoD and the Navy and the Marine Corps are really focusing on 5G automation, inventory warehousing, sort of getting to where Amazon and Walmart have been for years. You're going to see things like, supervised autonomous everything. And, I think the explosion of new applications, we started off, talking a little bit about, I really think we've only scratched the surface on the use cases that cloud computing technologies are bringing. I think as we continue to uncover those use cases and getting into serverless architecture, allowing developers the ability to build things quickly and efficiently, you're going to see an explosion of new apps.
A lot of new capability. Looking forward to it. Nicholas, how about at Snowflake? I can't imagine the things that you all are cooking up there in regards to, the extraction of information and being able to make sound decisions. What's it going to look like?
Yeah, well, I start with, I made a joke earlier, and I started this off by saying that we move our machines into credits roll. The credits aren't never going to roll. Don't get discouraged there, but things are going to keep moving forward. AI and ML, those large data sets that Adam was talking about, Snowflake's going to keep supporting the architectures and applications that are doing that. For us, it's going to be a lot about pushing the data cloud loop. We really want to get folks collaborating on those data sets. We saw a tremendous amount of success with COVID-19 across the nation, working with state and federal governments on the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to keep pushing the data cloud messaging, the data collaboration messaging, and we just hope we get people to listen.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that. Ed, you all are on a journey there. What, you know, in a couple of years, you're going to have a lot of that stuff sort of completed. You're going to be building organic capability into the cloud. What's it look like in a couple of years to, you know, a Customs and Border officer? What can they expect to see?
I think they can expect to see a very streamlined, simple user experience that provides the capabilities that they need at the click, you know, of a mouse. That's where we really want to be, delivering that value to the front line and making it easy as possible. So for me, the mantra is automate, 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 and simplify. Right, building in all the governance that's required, the security, the provisioning, building in on the back end for us, things like ITSM. You know, we've talked about ServiceNow quite a bit. We've talked about Okta kind of a bit with respect to access management and such, but also on the business piece as well, right? Whether it's, you know, technology business management or ITBM, having all those analytic tools on the back end so that not only do we deliver that capability and service, but also that we do it, you know, economically and efficiently and, you know, drive ROI. So for me, it's automate, 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 simplify, and deliver value to our customer on the front line.
And I love the idea of giving them that powerful mobile capability right in their hand there, so to speak, so that they can you know, perform those functions anywhere and everywhere, right? I mean, you guys are very much a mobile workforce.
Absolutely, yes, sir, we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Travis, how about at the Navy? It sounds like you all are full steam ahead, going at about Mach 2, 100 feet off the deck there. What does it look like in 2 or 3 years in regards to your commercial cloud service capability to your service?
I think it's bigger than just commercial cloud for us. I think it's an integrated environment that supports a mobile and mobility aspect of it on a cloud-enabled network. I think there's a modernization element that goes along with it, and this is what we've been focusing on, and it's going to be a journey over it to support integration from the embarkables on Navy ships and getting those forward deployed. But it starts with the cloud-enabled network. So we have to have a network and transport that supports these workloads being in multiple areas and supporting their transport, the data, and how they achieve that. And that's going to be a journey. So I think the big thing for us is getting to that cloud-enabled network and supporting that mobility and understanding that we do embark and do deploy to forward regions that are going to require some cloud technologies and support for that orchestrated environment.
I would imagine that this cloud technology lends itself very well to that kind of environment. You know, assuming that you can sort of get to that environment, right, if you will. And I would imagine with 5G and some of these other things, that sort of that super highway is going to be available to allow you all to then exploit this capability on the ships, et cetera, wherever they are across the world.
Oh, absolutely. But I think it extends into understanding how we do that resiliency in forward deployed locations as well. So we need that relationship with the industry partners on how we can exploit that and support our resiliency and continuity of operations. And there's tremendous work being done across all the commercial providers for networking as a service. And I kind of see that as a big piece, and transport as a service as a big piece coming down the pipe to support that.
Resiliency, big deal. Frank, how about at U.S. Air Force? You all have been in full motion over the course of several years here. What's it going to look like in a couple of years from sort of your perch, if you will, looking out at that capability?
We're seeing that it's going to be probably a hyper extension of the commercial clouds and the central centers into our bases in such a way that it's ubiquitous to us if it's in the commercial cloud or it's on the base, because as we start doing the 5G experiments at the depots, we know we have to have micro data centers at those depots. And so it has to be an extension of some of the major ones that are out there, because we cannot send all the information for example, from the F-35, the download of that information is too large to send across the optical network. It'll jam the network. So we have to load it and process it on the base itself. And so as you look forward to capabilities for the IoT centers and everything else, refining that the base level, we have to have extensions of the commercial clouds or any of the major cloud efforts, and it has to be ubiquitous to us. So we don't even know that it's connecting necessarily back and forth, but it has to have that relationships. Nick described some of that too, how you do the connectivity and everything else. And it's going to be that way eventually when we get to it. Biggest
challenge for you as you're embarking on that?
How to pay for it.
Sure, budget always a big deal.
And security, that's the other two. That's
Travis, your biggest challenge.
Resource availability. Where IT lands in the warfighting domain is always a struggle to get those resources to be available to support modernization efforts.
Right, and as these things start to align more to mission enablement, that gets typically a little bit easier. Well, hopefully it will. Ed, top challenge for you.
Well, as everyone said, budget is the #1 challenge, but I'd also like to talk a little bit about procurement, right? Our procurement systems are, pretty much based on, weapon system development, weapon system procurement, those sort of things that we've done in the past as part of our acquisition. But the cloud brings new challenges, right? We're looking at utility, consumption-based models. How do you deal with that? And I do know that as we're moving forward, we're working closely with DHS quarters and CBP headquarters in terms of procurement and looking at how do we deliver a sort of procurement platform that will provide the services that we need. Right now, we're looking at something called enterprise cloud and integration services that should be able to help us with that. We're also standing up an organization called ECS, Enterprise Cloud Services, that would act as a services delivery organization, very similar to what I heard about PEO, Digital Enterprise Services as well. So I think that's the biggest challenge for me. How do I deliver those services? And what's my procurement delivery system look like? And how do I get that integration together? I think that's a challenge. We started off very entrepreneurial. Now we really have to, change our worldview and move to this modern world. And how does that operate? And how do we get all these things to operate together?
Yeah, really organize yourself so that you can modernize in a modern way. Well, listen, I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us for this program. I want to thank all of you, by the way, for your service. I'd like to thank all of the sponsors for supporting us on this show. And I'd also like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And of course, most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience who tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.